I wanted to see just how strong Alex Schemansche's EUIC winning deck is, and I gotta say, I was not disappointed. Today's gameplay comes to us from, I was at my locals, Illustrious Cards and Games, played against a Miraidon EX deck, and we just got the gameplay footage. We're going to get straight into it. No opening stuff. I guess this is my gold open. But enjoy the gameplay. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll just get right to it. Alright, fist bump means the game is underway. I go ahead and start with an Arceus V, and I'm pretty sure I go first. I do. Starting an Arceus V is incredible, and getting the energy is even better. Arceus energy, what more could you really ask for? I'm sorry about the shaky table. I don't really know why it's doing that. Benching a Duraludon V and a Gardevoir, a Radiant Gardevoir, means I take 20 less damage during my opponent's next turn, and I'm that much closer to setting up my Duraludon VMAX, something I really want to do during this game. But anyway, now I give my opponent a V-Star marker, and it's their turn. Really, starting a Miraidon is pretty cool. It's not the greatest Pokemon to start, but being able to use the Tandem Unit ability means they can search their deck for up to 2 basic Lightning Pokemon and put them directly onto their bench. The beauty of this is you go and do this, you get a Pokemon, and then you get another Miraidon EX, so you can use that Miraidon's Tandem Unit. There's the other Miraidon, sorry about the glare. There's the other Miraidon, and you're going to go ahead and get what I'm pretty sure is going to be a Regieleki V. It's really important, and then they go ahead and use the other Tandem Unit on the Miraidon, and it's really important that my opponent gets their Regieleki Vs because they need to evolve them. Regieleki V, when it evolves into Regieleki VMAX, it increases the damage of your opponent, of your basic Lightning Pokemon's attacks by 30, and that stacks for each Regieleki VMAX in play. Your opponent hits for 30 more damage with their basic Lightning Pokemon, so really annoying to deal with. They can kind of stack up damage. That Raikou V can hit for max 220, tack on an extra 60 damage from Regieleki Vs, and now you're hitting for pretty good damage and knocking out Pokemon V-Stars easily. Same thing with the Miraidon. It can hit for a base 220, and all of a sudden, now you're hitting for 280, enough to knock out Arceus V-Star, Lugia V-Star, even with a Dunsparce in play. You're knocking out a lot of Pokemon that are seeing play right now. And if you notice, my opponent has the Raikou V in hand, but they didn't play it. They used the Tandem Unit to pull the Miraidon out of the deck. Why is that so important? It's because when they use Electric Generator, they're more likely to find energy cards out of the deck than Pokemon, and that's exactly what they want to do. So they pull the Pokemon out of the deck to thin it out as opposed to playing it from their hand. They have the Beach Court, so now their all basic Pokemon's retreat cost is reduced by 1, and they go into the Regieleki V, and they're going to go ahead and use Switching Bolt. It's going to hit for 30 damage. It should only hit for 10 because of the Radiant Gardevoir, and I missed it at first. It was something that we didn't realize, so you see me put the 3. Eventually that gets fixed into the 1. But anyway, my turn, I evolve into the Arceus V-Star, and I attach an energy, so I'm good to go. We go ahead and play Chorus's Experiment. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 3 of them into your hand, 2 go into the Lost Zone. And as I'm using this Chorus, I think to myself, should I have used Starbirth to get a boss and a choice belt? Because then I can boss up that Regieleki V, and my opponent really doesn't have much going for them at that point. There's no energies in play. They didn't play an Electric Generator, so I know there's at least a couple in the deck. I don't know how many are prized, but you know, I can kind of set them back, take an early 2 prize KO. It was something that I was really considering and thought maybe I should have done, but too late. I already played the Chorus, can't take it back, so just kind of had to deal with it. I play a Lost City just to get rid of their Beach Court. I don't necessarily care about the Lost City or getting Lost Zoning their Miraidon or the Regieleki. I don't think these decks run too much recovery, so I don't really care about it too much, but we do use our Starbirth. You never really know if your Arceus is going to get KO'd. In conventional knowledge, you generally want to use the Starbirth sooner rather than later, just because, like I said, you just don't know all the time. And especially against a deck like Miraidon that can, out of nowhere, hit you for 260, that would be really problematic. Now, we did only take 10 damage realistically, so 260 plus 10 is 270, not enough to KO. So that would be pretty, that's kind of important to know, but I didn't realize it at the time that I should only have 10 damage, not 30. So in my head, I'm like, oh, they could KO this next turn. It is very possible. So I was playing around that, even though I shouldn't have. Evolve into the Duraludon VMAX. So now that thing's not getting KO'd in one turn. 330 health is a little difficult. Plus, if they attack with something like the Raikou or the Regieleki, we reduce the damage by 20 thanks to Radiant Gardevoir. And I go ahead and just Trinity Nova for 180. I get to search my deck for up to 3 basic energies and attach them to my Pokemon V in any way I like. We are going to go ahead and get the double metal fighting, so 2 metals and a fighting energy, and attach them to the Duraludon VMAX. So now that is all set up, ready to go. We're just, my opponent's confirming the attack and the proper amount of damage, all that kind of stuff. Just making sure everything's squared away, and that's perfectly fine. But they start their turn, they draw. You can see I fixed the number there. We just, I realized Gardevoir only does reduce the damage by 20, so we fix it. Cool. Now we're where we should be. My opponent goes ahead, and they're going to start their turn. And I'm pretty... So my opponent Ultra Balls away a Nest Ball and a Raikou V. They're going to go ahead and search the deck. And they're going to get a Regieleki V Max Transistor, a really annoying ability that increases the damage of my opponent's Lightning Pokemon Basic, specifically by 30. So, not something you really want to see, at least not too many of them, but they are 3 prize liabilities. Now, they do have free retreat, so you're not able to boss trap them, which is a little annoying. They evolved the Regieleki V into the V Max. You saw them considering the energy attachment for turn, but figured I'm probably not going to attack with the Regieleki VMAX, so why commit an energy there if I don't need to? They do attach to the Miraidon. Now they could power it up with an electric generator. It is worth noting that an electric generator only attaches to the bench. But they go ahead and use the tandem unit to get another Regieleki V from the deck. This is, again, a smart move because, 1, tandem unit doesn't end your turn, so there's no reason not to use it, and you're going to thin your deck out of these Pokemon. And here comes a Professor's Research, so now they can go ahead, see a fresh set of 7 cards, and unfortunately for my opponent, they whiff the electric generator. They are just drawing into those energies, and that's the last thing you want to see. If this deck does not power up that Pokemon quickly, it's just going to be sitting there doing not a whole lot. They bounce that Lost City in place of their own Beach Court. Now all their Pokemon have free retreat because Beach Court reduces the retreat cost of basic Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's, by 1. I don't really have a lot of basic Pokemon in play, so it's really not that big a deal for me. But they do retreat into the Regieleki V, and now Switching Bolt does 40 damage. It does base 30, plus 30 from Transistor, minus 20 from the Radiant Gardevoir. You do have to do a little bit of math when playing the Pokemon trading card game. So if you are super math adverse, maybe this game isn't for you. But we're just trying to figure out all the math. And now I have 50 damage onto my Arceus there. But I start the turn and they send up the Raikou. And they did ask me, how much damage does the attack do? And I told them 180 because of the double turbo energy, which at the time was correct information. I do not have to disclose what's in my hand. So when they asked me how much damage it did, 180, okay, it's not enough to knock out that Raikou. I'm going to send that up. And that's when I go ahead and attach the Choice Belt. I can go ahead and play a Nest Ball. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to get an Alolan Vulpix V. That Choice Belt does make it so I can knock out the Raikou. I can knock out the Regieleki Vs now. It is worth noting that Choice Belt does not work on the Miraidon EX because Choice Belt only deals 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon V. And Miraidon is an EX, not a V. So we go ahead. I'm just kind of looking through the deck, making sure I got all the pieces I need to kind of close out this game. And I get an Alolan Vulpix V. One of the reasons I choose to get an Alolan Vulpix V, so I have a nice secondary attacker outside of the Arceus and the Duraludon, and it's kind of a little bit of bait. One, if they knock out the Vulpix, they're not knocking out my Arceus, and I can use that to knock out their multiple Regielekis. If they're not knocking out, or if they're knocking out the Vulpix, they're not damaging my Duraludon, which means that stays in play and is able to knock out all of their Pokemon, with the exception of the Regieleki VMAX. So it's kind of there to help me stay in the game, but also, if I do get to evolve it, the Alolan Vulpix V-Star ignores Lightning Wall's 100 damage less during my turn, something that Arceus does not do. So both the Vulpix and the Duraludon can shred through Regieleki V, which is really, really nice. And it can't be hit by Miraidon because the attack Snow Mirage, after I use it, during my opponent's next turn, I can't be hit by Pokemon with an ability. So that's really good to know. Trinity Nova KO the Raikou, and we start to put some energies onto the Alolan Vulpix V, and my opponent promotes the Regieleki V. So everything is looking pretty good. We go down to prizes, and my opponent doesn't really have a whole lot going on right now, so kind of hoping it stays that way. But you know, they can very easily knock out that Arceus now with something like the Miraidon, right? Miraidon can very easily knock it out. 50 damage is enough for them to you know, they can hit 250, or if they evolve into that other benched Regieleki, now they're hitting 280. Oh boy, that's more than enough. And like I said before, the Gardevoir is not going to protect us from any damage done to us by the Miraidon EX. So we're just going to have to see what my opponent does. They do go ahead and play the Ultra Ball, which means they're probably going to get a Regieleki VMAX. Two of their Raikous are already in the discard. They discarded one earlier, and we just knocked out one. So Regieleki, the Raikou, probably not going to see a lot more play. They do go ahead and select that Regieleki VMAX, so now their attacks are going to do 60 more damage. A Path to the Peak really hurts my opponent's deck. No Tandem Unit, no Transistor, no Fleet-Footed. It's really all the stuff they want to use. But they do have a fair amount of stadiums there. I think these decks usually play 3 beach courts to not only allow them to have the free retreat, but also as answers to Path to the Peak. So, you know, something to keep in mind. They evolved the Active, which I thought was a little weird, right? They could have evolved the bench. They get a second energy onto it, and then they're one more attachment away from hitting with Lightning Wall. But instead, they're spreading out the energies. Don't really think that was the right play, if you ask me. They go ahead and play Judge, which, you know, whatever. I wasn't too upset by the Judge play, but you never really like to see it after a certain number of turns. You're like, man, I kind of have a nice hand going. I wanted to keep all those cards. Really, what I need to find is Boss's Orders, so I can knock out that Regieleki V on the bench, and then I have that damaged Miraidon that's still sitting there in between the two Regielekis. So that's something really easy for me to KO later in the game. But there they go, they draw their 4 cards. Still no Electric Generator, which is just, oh my goodness, that has to feel so bad as the Miraidon player to just not be able to do the thing you want to do. Regieleki VMAX has free retreat, so they're going to go ahead and hit with the Switching Volt. It's going to do 90 damage minus 20, so it's going to hit for 70 damage, bringing me up to 120 damage total. And they switch into their Regieleki VMAX, which is pretty smart because they know that I'm not going to be able to one-shot it. So now that it's my turn, we go ahead, we get to draw. I do evolve into the Vulpix V-Star, something we picked up off of the Judge, which is pretty nice. I attach a double turbo energy. Now really all my Pokemon are set ready to attack, which is wonderful. Something that feels real good to have 2 Shredders, something that can't be hit by abilities, something that can power up my other Pokemon. I mean, Duraludon's just a big beefy boy. It's a big building, everybody. It's a big boy. And yeah, we're just chilling. Now it's pretty much, do I have Boss's Orders to start picking off their other attackers? And I'm pretty sure I do. We go ahead and we play the Luminion. That's how I go ahead and get boss's orders. So I do that. We search the deck for Luminion when you play from your hand to the bench. Search your deck for a supporter and put it into your hand. And as you can see, I choose that boss's orders, and it's going to get played pretty damn quickly. And there they go. They switched that Regieleki V with the active. That's exactly what I want. Knocking it out, and I'm going to take 2 more prizes. So there's a KO. We have 2 more prizes, which means just 1 more attack wins us the game. And one of the things with Arceus is that you have to search your deck for energies after you attack. So something to keep in mind, you have to shuffle your deck. You don't have to get the energies, but it doesn't say you may search your deck. It says specifically search your deck, which means you kind of have to do it. So if you stack your deck with, say, like switching cups, and you put something at the top of your deck, when you use Arceus' attack, you lose that card. My opponent go ahead, they play Arven to search the deck for a tool card and an item. Remember, tool cards are no longer items. They are separate cards. So they get a Defiant Band, they change to a Forest Seal Stone and an Electric Generator. The Electric Generator is the card that they've been waiting for this entire game. And honestly, if they had got an Electric Generator sooner, you never know how things might have gone. There is always a chance that they might have been able to attack, put some real pressure, but I did set out that Duraludon very, very quickly, so they Lightning Wall, and I just ignored the effects, and we're able to hit for 220, knocking out the Regieleki Vs and the Miraidon Vs. Anyway, my opponent played a Professor. They used the first Electric Generator. That's what they did, and they whiffed. And I'm just letting them know, now that they played their supporter of Arven, I got boss for game, but they decided they want to play it out. So I was trying to just save them a little bit of time. So they go ahead and use the first Electric Generator. It whiffs. They now use the Forest Seal Stone. They can use the Forest Seal Stone's ability Star Alchemy to search the deck for any card they want. They go ahead and choose, unsurprisingly, another Electric Generator, and I would have done that in the opposite order. I would have used Star Alchemy to get the other Electric Generator out of the deck so that they are less likely to hit it. There's 1 fewer card in the deck, which means there's more chance that they hit the energy card. So I would have done that the opposite way, and this is exactly why I do this gameplay review, right? This gives you an opportunity to see mistakes that other players make. We can watch the game, identify the mistake, and say, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make that mistake. Now they do hit 2 energies off of the Electric Generator. They go ahead, attach them to the Miraidon. It doesn't really matter at this point, that Miraidon, if they attack with it. Even if they knock out this Arceus V, or the Arceus V Star, it's going to get KO'd by either the Duraludon or the Alolan Vulpix. So it really doesn't matter. They hit me for 260, whatever. It's not that big a deal. You can see them kind of debating on what they want to do, that damage. And I was, at this point in the game, they know the game's over. We're just kind of chatting. I'm like, yeah, that's why I never bossed up the Miraidon to begin with. It already got damage. I'm going to leave it for the end of the game, so it's a super easy KO to kind of close it out. And I don't really have to worry. But again, even if they attacked with the other fully healthy Miraidon, I could still knock out their Miraidon with the Duraludon. But they go ahead and take 2 prizes. It's now my turn, and I just go ahead and declare Gmax Pulverization for a game, and that's gonna do it. That's all 6 prizes taken. You love to see it.